Hey guys, it's Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time on Doctor Who Classic, we had the 10th planet. What was that one about?
Well, they landed in, of all places, what appeared to be Antarctica. Mm-hmm. Have no idea why they set it there. But then discovered that there is some kind of monitoring station there that finds that there's a planet that's entering the solar system. It turns out to be a planet that was Earth's twin, and it was run by the Cybermen who were coming to steal Earth's energy. I don't know, it seemed very far-fetched. The main thing that happened, of course, is at the very end, the Doctor collapses on the floor. There's this kind of bright flash of light, and suddenly he's not William Hartnell anymore.
Yes. Okay, so I did talk with some people on Twitter about the 10th planet because, now, we still liked the episode. Overall, it was just very odd. And I talked about some stuff with Mondas, and it's like, okay, so this planet just drifted away one day. I could not get an explanation for that. But apparently, the explanation that I got is that the Cybermen figured out how to bring Mondas back to Earth. So somehow it drifted away, but they specifically brought it back, which was like 5% of our questions that we had. And I guess for some reason, Mondas specifically was some sort of vampiric planet that, it sapped away the energy. And okay, I think someone actually said that the reason they had to bring Mondas back to Earth was because normally Mondas takes the life force energy of its own people. But they figured out how to not lose their energy when they became the Cybermen. So without drawing on the power of the Cybermen had to bring Mondas to Earth to take its power so that Mondas could still live.
Uh-huh.
It's all very far-fetched, but that is the explanation I have been given. So, which I guess that still doesn't explain why when Mondas is destroyed, they all died.
Not only did they die, they melted.
Yeah.
They seemed to evaporate, which seemed kind of weird.
Yeah, maybe I missed that part in the explanations on Twitter, but yeah. And then, yeah, the big thing, though, is at the end, the Doctor goes through his first regeneration.
And Ben and Polly, who've only been with him for, 4, 5, 6 episodes, are there to see it.
Yeah. A total of 2 serials, basically. And I think there were some people that said maybe that's probably why there was no, send-off line or anything, because they barely knew him in this form. So, if, say, Steven and Dodo were still there, then there probably would have been maybe a bit more there. Yeah. And apparently the original plan was not even to show Troughton. He just collapses, episode ends. The next episode starts, they, pull a cloak off of him, and Troughton's just there. So, and I guess, yeah, kids, in 1966 probably didn't know that the Doctor was going to, regenerate, or just, they were going to change actors. So that is a pretty, I guess it's a decent cliffhanger when just suddenly the Doctor changes and then the episode's over. It's like, I'll come back next week. So,
yeah.
But I still feel like there could have been some sort of a line. So.
Yeah, again, it all goes back to, and I saw one of the comments that said, it all goes back to the fact that they literally had no idea what they were doing.
Yeah.
Unlike Roddenberry with Star Trek, who literally had a Bible that said, this is the way we must go. And although there were still inconsistencies there was this idea of, this is what we want to do. No matter how long the series goes, we stick to the Bible. And here, they were just making it up as they went along.
It's a very strange thing, when you look at, Star Trek and Doctor Who, where they started and where they are now, because Star Trek, it started with foundations, like Roddenberry, had so many things planned, okay, this is what we're doing, and now you can build off of that. And that's what, a lot of the spin-offs did, Next Gen, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and everything, even Enterprise. And now, in the modern day, Star Trek is on Star Trek Discovery, where they don't really stick to that consistency a whole lot. Even Picard, to an extent, kind of ignores some things and stuff. Whereas now, Doctor Who, back then, they were making everything up as they went along. They just wanted a little, let's go back in time and stuff. And then suddenly, Daleks, we have to switch out our companions. Okay, that means we're stuck with the old man. He's the only, actor we're sticking around with. Okay, so that means he has to be the main character now. But this guy clearly can't do this forever, so now we have to switch him out. Also, here's all these aliens and all these different situations. We have to figure out some way of switching this guy out to make it feel right. Now, you come into the modern day, and somehow they have taken whatever that first era was, and they actually have built a solid foundation and don't really now, granted, I haven't gotten to the 13th Doctor or anything, so maybe there's something else that'll happen. I don't know. But as far as I've seen in the 12th Doctor's era, it's no, everything is still kind of as consistent as Doctor Who can be.
I've seen a couple of news articles on basically something that happens in Jodie Whittaker's tenure that kind of reverses everything of the Unearthly Child. And I, again, haven't seen her because I've only seen a little bit of Tennant and Matt Smith. Haven't seen any of Capaldi's yet, so...
Yeah. I remember, when those episodes came out, I think that was, earlier this year, too. And I think it was, the finale was called, The Timeless Children. And I just saw that there was some big brouhaha about it. It's well, I'll get there eventually. I'll see what it is. So, yeah.
So,
today...
Now, I have to say, we are now to the point where I would have never known.
Yes.
Doctor Who was William Hartnell. When I left England, I knew that Doctor Who was William Hartnell, and because there was no news from the BBC over to Omaha, Nebraska, which is where I spent high school years, again, I didn't know until college, until 1975 or 76, that Doctor Who was still on, and that they were now on their fourth Doctor. And that's when I began to go back, hey, wait a minute, they had this guy Troughton, they had this guy Pertwee, and now they got Tom Baker. So,
which, I mean, you did say it's you don't really hear about shows really going that long. Because, I mean, even Star Trek ended after 3 years, and then it wasn't even until, wasn't it the late 70s when they finally did the motion picture?
Yeah.
Because that would have had to have been after Star Wars.
79 or 80, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the thing for, the show that was completely planned out, got canned after 3 seasons. I guess they had the animated series, but nobody cares about that. And so that got canceled, only came back kind of with the 80s with the movies and then eventually with Next Gen. Meanwhile, Doctor Who did stay on for 26 seasons until it was finally canned.
Just plodding along.
Yeah, they just kept going, which, I mean, they had the, built-in sort of, insurance of still going. It's we can change up the entire cast whenever we need to. Yeah. It's the companions want to move on. Okay, we'll just get a new one. The Doctor wants to move on. We get a new actor, and it still just keeps working. It's like if they made James Bond into a show instead of just the series of movies. Yeah. So, anyway, today we are on to the power of the Daleks.
Okay.
Our favorite boys are back.
Yeah.
For the second Doctor's first adventure.
Well, let's hope this is not as silly as the last one that we watched.
The Daleks' Master Plan. Yeah, we haven't seen them in a while, have we? So, yeah, which, I mean, I'm trying to remember, all the Dalek stories. We had the Daleks with the cavemen, which was okay, just kind of too long. The Dalek invasion of Earth, which was okay, honestly. The chase, it was kind of fun. It was goofy and we didn't expect it, but it was fun. Daleks' Master Plan just sort of petered out into nothing, and then, yeah, now we are here. And like you said, we are pretty much both going in completely blind now.
Now, did Terry Nation write this one?
I would assume so, but I don't know. It doesn't say here on Amazon. We'll have to see once we actually get started. Okay. So we might as well do that. Okay. And also, just the one last thing, we are splitting the Power of the Daleks into 2 videos because it's 6 parts. So this video will be parts 1 to 3. Come back next week. We'll do parts 4 through 6. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get right into the Power of the Daleks. Here we go.
Make it so.
Alrighty, now, here's the interesting thing, because this is completely animated. Would you rather watch this in black and white or in color?
Oh, let's watch it in color.
Alrighty.
So all 6 of these episodes are animated?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Also, as another note, there was like a newer version of this animation that came out this year, but it's not on Amazon yet, so we're watching the 2016 version.
David Whittaker, not Terry Nation, but it's, well, what is it based on? At some
Maybe.
point.
Ben, do you remember what he said in the tracking room? Something about this old body of mine is wearing a bit thin.
So he gets himself a new one?
Well, yes.
Wow,
Do me
good
a
work,
favor.
Polly, figuring that out. Oh, the regeneration hangover.
Have you done with this? Put it down, put it down. Now what's the game? Ah!
The Crusades. Saladin.
Oh, so that's it. You've been renewed, have you?
I've been renewed, have I? That's it. I've been renewed. It's part of the TARDIS. Without it, I couldn't survive. Come here!
Another piece of they don't know what they're doing. Oh, the TARDIS did it.
Doctor kept it.
But you don't know where we've landed!
No, and you haven't checked the oxygen or the temperature or anything.
Oxygen density 172, radiation nil, temperature 86. Strong suggestion of mercury deposits. Satisfied, Ben? Now, are you two coming or are you not?
Well, I like that he's already giving up on the scanner.
I'm from Earth. I'm the examiner.
Be careful, the doctor just got this body.
Glad we're not watching this in the recons, because there's huge sections with no dialogue,
Yeah.
and we'd be reading, "The doctor looks around."
Yeah. Still needs glasses.
No,
Oh.
he doesn't need the glasses.
It's like Spider-Man.
Vulcan Earth Examiner.
I shall look forward to your report. Regan, see that the examiner and his party get some proper clothes, will you?
You do have to fill in those pauses with something.
There must be something in the inner compartment. We shall be able to find out where it came from originally.
It didn't come from this planet, Falcon.
No. The metal is quite alien.
Alien. Yes. Very alien. Good night.
What's he up to now?
Then we're not going to let him out of our sight.
Kind of seems like he's already figured out what might be in there.
Ben, come in and meet the Daleks.
But there are 3 Daleks in here. What's happened to the other one? Doctor!
It's a squid!
Whew. That one got out. Alright, that's part 1. A bit slower, but
Yeah. And again, with... I am glad it's animated, because that would have been even more boring if it had been a recon.
yeah.
But here's the problem. You cannot announce that this series is called The Power of the Daleks, because that literally gives it away.
yeah.
So we've been expecting from the very beginning that there were Daleks in the capsule.
Right. Now it's interesting. So I guess he must have immediately figured it out upon seeing the piece of metal. And he says that, I guess, the first Doctor found a piece just like it, which I guess he had on him that whole time. I don't know. Maybe we missed something about that. But yeah, that's... I don't know. I'm curious, like, well, just what's going on? I don't know.
Yeah. I would have to say that if I had been there in 66 when this played, I would have said, I don't like it. You know,
Yeah.
compared to what we had been through for the preceding 3 years, and I'm sure that he's going to develop a personality much different from Hartnell's, but
Yeah.
what we see of him in this first episode doesn't tell us anything about him other than he keeps playing that annoying flute
Yeah.
and doesn't answer questions.
He's kind of, they're trying to keep him mysterious for now, which maybe, you know, over the course of the entire serial, he'll start to develop, and then by the end of it, he'll be the second Doctor that we know. But just for one episode, like, okay, we're watching this, you know, come back next week, and it's like, okay, that was kind of weird. It's like, okay, well, yeah, the Daleks are here, and, you know, everyone loves the Daleks, so I guess that's what, you know, will keep people necessarily. But it is an interesting choice. Just you don't get much personality from the second Doctor.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I would have been reluctant to come back for another episode because, again, not knowing what's coming, this was really a letdown.
yeah.
You know? And again, we saw Tomb of the Cybermen, and didn't we see, what else did we see? The one with the robo-apes or whatever that was.
Yeah, the Web of Fear.
All right, so we've seen a couple of episodes. We know what he does develop into, but there's absolutely none of that in this episode.
Yeah, it's... Because, I mean, I understand, like, the first part of it where, you know, he's just coming off the regeneration. He's still kind of disoriented, and especially, you know, obviously they add in later when it's like, you know, after he goes through so many regenerations, like, okay, regeneration, you know, is a big thing. This is the first time he's ever gone through it, so yeah, it is sort of disorienting. He's got to figure things out. It's like, okay, this is my new body. Muscles are still a little stiff. Okay, I can try to get used to this. But just no defining personality. Not even like a, you know, if they tried to do like maybe he starts to act like the first Doctor and then he's like, no, that's something the old me would have done. I'm a new person. I can't think like that anymore. You know? So, because I mean, just comparing that to like, you know, other episodes of the Doctor's, you know, the Doctor's first episode after he regenerates, which can be kind of tricky to compare them all because they all sort of work into their own stories. Like when the 9th Doctor regenerates into the 10th Doctor, he's actually asleep for most of the episode. He doesn't come in until the end. And then there are other ones like for the 11th Doctor, after, you know, once he regenerates to the 11th Doctor, he is immediately thrown into, you know, the TARDIS is crashing, something is happening, and, you know, there's aliens that are about to destroy the world, and he gets right into there. But still, each one is still set up properly. Yeah. Whereas this one, it's like, no, we didn't. He's like, they're keeping up the mystery, which I guess they sort of, maybe it's more of, that's what they did at the beginning, when it's like, who's this, you know, Doctor Who? And it's like, okay, here's this old guy, don't really know much about him, but then that progresses over the course of those 3 seasons. But you just can't do that, whereas like you go from one defined character to no defined character. Yeah. So,
and I'm really kind of surprised, if they're going to go for all this mystery, they didn't have more of a soundtrack. You know, there were just huge, long segments of this episode where it was, you know, literally you heard footsteps, or, you know.
Yeah.
So, again, overall, on first viewing, it's kind of jarring, and again, hopefully it gets better, and I'm sure since we're watching all 6 episodes, we'll find something to like about him. But again, just first impression, it's disappointing, it's disconcerting, it's weird.
Yeah, and it doesn't help that he doesn't even refer to himself as the Doctor, whereas they do. Like, you know, Ben reluctantly, and Polly immediately figuring out, oh, this is the Doctor, he must have changed his face. Don't know how that works, but that, you know, she's picking up the context clues of what, you know, the first Doctor says, like, that must be it. So good on her for figuring that out. But even he doesn't really call himself the Doctor. It's almost like he's unsure of himself, you know? So, I don't know. And even like, you know, those long moments of silence where the animation can only fill in so much. Like, you know, if this was a recon, we wouldn't have anything. The animation's trying to fill it in, but even then it's like, okay, they're just sort of standing around looking at each other, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So I would be curious what the updated animation looks like in the newer version, because I think this version may have been slightly rushed a little bit, which, I mean, this came out in 2016, so I would imagine they probably did this for like the 50th anniversary of this episode. So
yeah.
But yeah, which the animation, it's okay, it's not the greatest,
Yeah.
but yeah, and again, the reason we're not watching the updated version is because it's not available on Amazon. I really tried looking all over, and I couldn't find it. The only way we could have watched it would have been on Blu-ray, but it wouldn't have been here till like December 10th, and we didn't want to wait.
We don't have a Blu-ray player.
Actually, I do.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, I have, because for my Attack on Titan reactions, the only way I could watch the English dub of it was to get the Blu-ray. It was not available anywhere else, so I had to buy a little Blu-ray player for my computer.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was like $90 for it. A little expensive, but it was worth
Holy
it.
moly.
Yeah, so is it nice having subtitles?
Yes.
Don't get used to it.
Now, you have to admit, the depth of the animation is really cool there.
Yeah.
What was it?
Have they ever actually showed the squid yet?
Not that I remember.
The governor's jealous of his own position. What does that suggest to you? Don't know. Haven't thought about it. That all is not well with this colony. Add to that one Dalek.
Blimey, you don't make mountains, don't you? One Dalek?
Yes. All that is needed to wipe out this entire colony.
I'm not sure if they built up the Daleks to be like, you just need one to blow out this whole colony.
Of course, the real Doctor was always going on about the Daleks.
Real doctor.
Oh, you mean the real Doctor?
Yeah, now I've seen that claw thing, well, wouldn't want to shake hands with it, let's put it that way.
Doctor, look, if they're that dangerous, what are you going to do about it?
When would he have gone on about the Daleks?
They probably had 8 adventures between smugglers and 10th Planet.
Where is the third Dalek? I don't know what you're talking about. You opened up the capsule without permission. You found the inner compartment containing 3 Daleks. You took
his
one
first
of them
line
away
flub.
and you hid it. I'm an Earth Examiner. I demand it. You're exceeding your authority. Perhaps we should ask the governor about that. I wish to see him immediately.
That might be difficult.
But not impossible. Ben, Bonnet.
I wonder if they're slightly trying to write him like the first Doctor.
Lesterson watches over his ideas like a mother hen.
If there was a bomb under this floor, timed to go off in 5 minutes, would you ask my permission before you ripped up the floorboards? Ah, fruit!
Examiner.
Thank you.
Yes, minor acts of sabotage. Rebel clique, secret newspapers. Nothing important, you understand, but keeps the governor busy. I've no doubt he'll tell you all about it himself when I arrange your meeting with him.
Aren't there like 5 people? How is there a rebellion?
Going on a tour of the perimeter of the colony.
Obviously, we haven't seen but a small part of the colony.
Yeah.
You, my old China, are an out-and-out phony.
China! Yes. I went there once, I believe. Met Marco Polo.
No, not China. China. China and plate. Mate, friend.
Yes, Marco Polo, a friend. I believe he was.
Don't listen
See,
to him.
now
I
he's
know
the
who
second
you are.
Doctor.
I know the misery they cause.
Interesting is
Destruction.
he looks a lot like Troughton, and the
There's something else.
animation looks a lot like Polly, but the Ben one doesn't. Ben's hair is too dark in the animation.
Well,
And there may even be a simplified brain. Positronic, I shouldn't wonder. If
Wow.
only we could open it up.
so he doesn't even know there's a
Everything functioning here.
squid in there.
Yes.
Or should be.
The powers. I don't like it, I tell you. We don't know what these things can do. No, and we never shall know, shall we? Unless we take film of every reaction. Now get on with your work, man.
Do we suspect his fritters are about to be fried?
Maybe.
It's all right, he isn't dead.
Even in animation, they can't do a laser. Well, it doesn't have its blaster, at least.
Recognize a doctor. Recognized him.
Dalek knows who you are.
Capable of storing it
Moreover, it responds to orders. Turn around.
How could the Dalek recognize him
Move
if he
that
just
chair.
regenerated?
Essence of Doctor, I guess.
Maybe. Recognize he's a Time Lord.
Stop! The thing it does most efficiently is exterminate human beings. It destroys them without mercy, without conscience. It destroys them utterly, completely.
I am your servant. I am your servant.
Alrighty, that is part 2.
Well, certainly picked up as far as the plot. But
Yeah.
again, I would still be, as an old-time Doctor watcher, watching the new Doctor, I would still be very confused.
Yeah, I mean, he got a little bit more, like, when the fruit came in, it's like, he was like saying something serious, like, yes, and I must see him immediately. Ooh, fruit! It's like, okay, that's a little bit. I guess we're slowly building up to his personality. Yeah. Now, it's interesting because this actually reminds me of an 11th Doctor Dalek episode where basically... So, the Doctor gets a call from Winston Churchill and is like, hey, I need you to come check some things out. The Doctor goes, there are Daleks working for the British during World War II. And there's a guy who's like, yes, I invented them. And they're like, serving, like, stuff. They're being their servants just like this. And that was also, like, maybe the 11th Doctor's 3rd episode. So it's very strange, like, to have something very similar to that. And especially, too, because the 11th Doctor does sort of get inspiration from the 2nd Doctor in terms of personality. So it's just a very interesting... Probably not a coincidence. They probably thought of that and were like, oh, we could do something sort of similar to that. But yeah, of course, at this point, the 2nd Doctor still has not fully formed his own personality yet.
Yeah.
Now, it's always interesting when they bring in the Daleks so early on in a regeneration because... And I've had people comment this because both with the 11th Doctor, that was his 3rd episode where he had to deal with the Daleks, and Capaldi, in his 2nd episode, he had to deal with the Daleks, and it's like, it is a little too early to bring in the Daleks because you kind of need to see this, this Doctor's personality, how he just deals with everything, and then how does he deal with his greatest enemy, And it's interesting because the 2nd Doctor is kind of terrified of the Daleks, where the 1st Doctor never really was. Even after 4 encounters, and like after all those, maybe it got, ramped up where it's like, oh, the Daleks, like, oh, they're bad news, we have to do something. But this one seems specifically scared of them, which is interesting. Yeah. Which, I mean, I guess that is part of, maybe separating him from the 1st Doctor, but we don't have the rest of his personality yet.
Yeah.
So, and I'm also curious, so is there a squid in this Dalek or not? I have to assume so because, if
he's one of the 2 remaining Daleks, because I thought the squid was from the 3rd one.
I thought so too, which would be this one that Lesterson has already moved away. Unless it was that, no, this one is... full, it was one of the other 2 that escaped. Maybe, or somehow the Dalek is controlling this from afar, or something. We don't really know. We haven't gotten any, like, we haven't figured out the whole thing of, like, oh, what happened to that one, squid that crawled off. Yeah. So yeah. I mean, better episode, definitely, but it's a bit of a slow build-up to what we expect to get from this. Yeah. So...
You would think, and again, if I were a producer back then or a director, you would think you'd want your new Doctor to make a very big splash right away.
Yeah.
And instead, they're very, very slowly leading us into his personality and into the story, and that seems counterproductive at this point.
Yeah.
And especially, you and I are watching it all in one sitting, but if I had to watch this over 6 weeks, I suspect, and I don't know for sure, but I would wonder if the ratings for this began to drop off at this point.
Yeah.
Of course, the diehards would stay with it, and maybe some of them would come back later. But, the first 2 weeks of this, right now I'm looking at this going, this isn't Doctor Who anymore.
I think that's why this is a Dalek episode. Because it's like, okay, they, I guess for whatever reason, they want to take their time with building up the second Doctor, and maybe they're trying to think okay, how are we going to do this? Do we want to make him just, the first Doctor just with a different actor? And they're thinking, no, we got to change it up a little bit. And okay, well, while we figure out what we really want to do with him, and, they're probably talking to Troughton, too, about maybe what he would want to do. They're probably thinking okay, well, let's keep it kind of vague about, who he is. Let's build up to that until we really figure it out. Then, towards the end of the serial, that'll be okay, yes, this is what we have. We're good. Now we can move forward. So I would imagine it's okay, well, how do we keep, people coming back, while we don't really have any sort of Doctor. We don't have our complete new Doctor, but we also still don't have the old Doctor that we used to have. Well, the best way to keep people's attention at this point would have to be to bring in the Daleks.
Yeah. Now, I will say this, though. Again, having directed a lot of stage plays, quite a few years ago, I was asked to direct an original musical. And so they gave me the script, and the first 3 scenes, which would have taken up about 30 minutes, introduced all the characters, and there were a couple of, nice, wonderful lilting songs. The music was great, but the more I looked at it, I thought, where is this going? If I were sitting in the audience, I'm not interested in this. And then I got to the 4th scene, and this was a scene that had a big rollicking musical number, and the characters came out and said, hey, here we are in the new place, and so I went to the authors and I said, look, I really enjoyed the script. I especially love the music, but this show needs to start with a bang. So if you don't object for this production, I'm just going to jettison the first 3 scenes, the basically prologue of it, and we're just going to start with this big song number and introducing the characters, and away we go, and then the audience will just go with it. And I thought that was a more effective way of doing it. And again, it's absolutely the opposite of what's happening here.
Yeah.
Instead of starting with a bang, now they're starting with a bang with the Daleks, but even that took an entire episode for us to get to them opening the door and going, it's a Dalek. So now we're starting to pick up, but again, there's too much prologue here. There's too much setup.
Yeah, I almost wonder, because we said, it's okay, maybe they're trying to take this time to figure out what they want to do with the second Doctor. It could also be that while maybe they thought, oh, we need to start with a bang to get this new Doctor out there and, have everyone love him, it could be that they were worried about a backlash against the second Doctor. That's if we come too strong out of the gate, then that might turn everyone off, no matter how many Daleks we put in there. So, and especially too because the second Doctor ends up being so different from the first Doctor. It's okay, here we have, the grumpy old man, and he goes in, young man, you can't be doing all this stuff. And now here's this sort of,
Again, I see your point, but as a writer, I would say, I know he's going to be different from the first Doctor, but that's so easy to do, is if that, like you said before, transitions where you start to see him doing some stuff like Hartnell did it, and then he go, no, that's not the way I'm going to do it. And it's so easily explainable that to do it this way, it seems interminable. And again, we know that it's going to ultimately work out.
Yeah.
But again, if I were sitting and watching this as a 15-year-old kid, I would be going, I don't know. I really don't know if I'm going to continue watching it.
It's an interesting choice to take their time about it. No, we have to. We're going to stop. We're going to keep things vague. Okay, maybe we have a couple ideas, and maybe Troughton, just bouncing off of his personality too. And it's okay, so we have some ideas. Maybe let's try to develop it, in this time. We have 6-parter. We haven't done a 6-parter in a long time. I think the last episode that went more than 4 parts was the Dalek Master Plan. So it's okay, we've got time. Let's figure it out. Okay, we'll take a few episodes, and hopefully these Daleks will keep the kids interested long enough so that we can establish this Doctor. Yeah. And by the end of it, we'll all be good. So let's just hope that it doesn't take more than, just a few more episodes. if by the end of, throughout the next episode, it's like, nope, okay, here's the second Doctor. He's firmly established. Like, he's funny, but he does obviously have his serious moments too. It's like, okay, that could work. But these first two, it's like, you're taking your time, which...
It's skating on thin ice here, boys.
Yeah, so...
All right, well, let's see.
But then, why not? After all, they have a certain intelligence.
Yes, I know,
but it is an intelligence that we can control. So what you want...
Probably something you should have asked before you turned it off.
Governor, think what it would mean if we were to set it to work in the mines. It could double our production overnight.
Consider the effect it could have on our whole economy.
Yes, and the effect of that on Earth.
We need a lot of mercury on Earth, do we?
Yeah.
I thought it was molybdenum.
Ugh.
Why are you so against this project?
But I've told you! I realize I can't give you any proof, but you've no idea of the danger!
No.
Yes! Danger!
Well, I would say this has to be
Just so soon as
before
radio
the Dalek
communications
invasion
have
of
been
Earth, but
restored.
they probably forgot anyway.
I chose Quinn myself. I trained him for the job. Why, in a few years' time, he'd have had this seat.
Sometimes, Governor, a few years is a long time to wait.
You will assume Quinn's duties. As of now, you are Deputy Governor.
Maybe that's the plan.
Is that the gun you told me of?
Mm-hmm.
Can you persuade the rebels this will help them?
Yes, Varma thinks he can work in a switch to turn it on and off.
How powerful is it?
Killed Resno, Lesterson's assistant. Lesterson believes that Resno is simply shaken up, taking a few days off
And the body?
in the Mercury swamp.
It should have quite a good range.
Can you fix it?
It's easy. This could win us the revolution.
Yeah, I kind of assume that gun only works if it's attached to a Dalek.
One would think that.
Well,
She is missing.
Oh, no.
Oh, yes.
No. She's looking around. There's a lot to see in the colony. She's interested. I like that.
Come on, where are we going? To report it. If we make a fool of ourselves, I don't care. We report it.
see, the Doctor has clearly forgotten that everyone always gets kidnapped in these episodes.
You know, it's amazing. You have an almost human interest and curiosity.
A Dalek is not the same as a human. If I am
Had to
to
catch
help,
himself there.
I must know everything.
Short circuit the generator, Ben.
Stand back!
Don't be frightened of it, Ben. It's not armed. I'm going to see what it was doing in there.
It's literally missing an arm.
Let's get out of here.
Run!
Fool Lesterson must have reactivated them.
Yes. When I say run, run like a rabbit.
Oh, the hat!
The girl is safe. She will remain so as long as you leave the Daleks alone.
It took 2 pages to write that?
We will get our power. 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 We will get our power.
They really like chanting. Well, that is part 3.
Well, again, the story is picking up, but
Yeah.
the Doctor is still such a vague type of anomaly to everything that we know about him. Again, we're obviously going to stay on with it, but
Yeah.
I would be very interested to know how the ratings were for this series.
Yeah. I mean... Yeah, because I guess I don't really know like what the general consensus on the first Doctor was, but I mean, he is just. I can't even say like he's different. I mean, he is different from the first Doctor, but we don't really get. We just don't get a lot. We're slowly just building up with him.
again, like we said about the first Doctor for a while, he's not the main character. You know, in this story, he's a background character.
Yeah, which is odd because he has, especially over the course of season 3, the Doctor really did have to take more of a leading role.
Yeah.
So, which I mean, there have been others where it's like, you know, other episodes where it's like, oh, well, you know, yeah, the Doctor is sort of the main character, but, you know, like in The Gunfighters, Steven has to deal with, like, you know, the one gang of brothers, I don't remember what they were called. Clantons, that was it. And, you know, Dodo has to keep Doc Holliday at gunpoint and stuff like that, and the Doctor, you know, he's with Wyatt Earp, but that's really about it. Yeah. So yeah, even with the first Doctor becoming the main character, he still didn't have, like, a ton to do. Like, it was still pretty even between him and his companions. So to have that, but sort of take the Doctor back a little bit to sort of being like, he's there, but he's not doing a ton, you know? So...
Well, and the thing is, the three of them, the Doctor, the Ben, and Polly, really are not the focus so far. So far, this is about Lesterson and the Governor and Bregan and Quinn and the Daleks. I'm kind of getting this idea of, you know, like Sherlock Holmes and Hound of the Baskervilles, where, you know, they're sitting back and watching it unfold, but still... I mean, the minute the Doctor saw the Daleks, there has to be some more about, you know, you guys don't understand what you're doing. Now, he's said that a couple of times, but he's not actively trying to stop them.
He's not really being proactive about stopping the Daleks. But then again, the Daleks technically aren't being that proactive about murdering everyone within, you know, eyesight.
Yeah.
So... I guess that's sort of it, too, is that, you know, while, yes, like, okay, we have the Daleks... What do we do with them? They have to sort of take the back seat too, so that, you know, their plan, whatever it is, you know, slowly being put into motion.
Well, it seems to me, and again we'll see next week, that the idea of building the computer will be to summon other Daleks, or to now that's assuming that they don't know what has happened to the other Daleks. So we do know that they've been on this planet for at least 100 years, maybe more, stuck in the swamp there. So, you know, that initial Dalek diaspora, if you want to call it, where they sent them out to various places, we know that some of them have been destroyed, the invasion of Earth. We don't know if this is before the invasion of Earth or afterwards.
Yeah.
But either way, because of their isolation here on Vulcan, they don't know what has happened. But it seems to me that they're setting up some kind of way to contact the other Daleks and bring them down here.
Yeah, well, because there's so many... It's honestly kind of hard to keep track of the Daleks, too, because it's like, okay, so we had, you know, we had the initial one with, you know, Skaro and the Thals, and that kind of seemed to be almost like the death of the Daleks, because, well, they did all die. You know, then, well, they'll come back later somehow. And then... So that's kind of on its own, you know, they're still using static electricity or whatever, but then they technically go back in time for the Dalek invasion of Earth. Like, okay, these are previous Daleks that somehow invaded, well, you know, they came and they invaded Earth and then they were defeated by the Doctor, but these humans don't really know about the Daleks, so is this before the Dalek invasion of Earth? But then again, if this was modern Doctor Who, this would be like, no, it's like 50 years later, but everyone forgot anyway.
Yeah.
So, because that's what modern Doctor Who always does. If there is some giant invasion, 5 minutes later, nobody's going to remember.
Yeah.
So...
Well, not to be too horribly political, but...
Oh, God.
It's surprising how many people have forgotten what happened in the 30s and 40s. You know, you talk today about World War II, and I'm sorry, yes, take a drink, I just mentioned World War II. But the people today, here in the United States, the neo-fascists and the neo-Nazis, it's like... Seriously, how have you never picked up a book? Do you not know what these people did to your grandparents? So, you know, I'm sure that there are people in other places that would say, oh, we want to talk about, you know, genocide? Oh, that happened 100 years ago. That would never happen today. Yeah, it is happening today.
Yeah,
it's still happening.
Or even just people that don't know, like, the Holocaust happened.
Yeah. Well, not only don't know, but people who actively know about it and actively deny that it happened.
Yeah.
So, well, let's not go there, but seriously.
Right. Which I don't know, because it's like there is stuff like that where it's like, oh, you know, Doctor Who maybe somehow is making a commentary on that every time they, you know, forget an invasion. There was literally an episode in Capaldi's run where the entire world is overrun by trees. Just everywhere. There's no open space in the entire world. Even the ocean, just trees across the entire thing. And at the end of the episode, all the trees just kind of disappear as quickly as they came. And the Doctor's companion, Clara, is like, well, how are they going to explain this? And the Doctor's like, you'll all forget it. And it's like, how does anyone forget when the entire world was covered by trees? But they do.
That's one of the things that I used to talk about in my world history classes. In 1918, when the Great War came to an end, I mean, they literally called it the war to end all wars.
Yeah.
This war is being fought so that it will never happen again. And in 1939, 21 years later, it started all over again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, in one generation, that's how people forget.
Yeah. And that does sort of remind me, there's kind of a meme where it's like, oh, if this thing is so great, like, where's the sequel, basically? It's like, oh, if Coca-Cola is so great, where's Coca-Cola 2? It's one of the dumbest things you can say, but it is honestly funny. It kind of sounds like the World Wars were like that. It's like, oh, the Great War, oh, it's so great, where's World War II? And then that actually happened. Yeah. Like, somehow this meme did actually exist. So
yeah, so I mean, again, sorry for bringing up.
We're off topic of.
Well, of course we are.
Well, yeah,
that's what we're about.
Yeah,
that's what sustained us for the last 2 years.
That's true.
But Alex often gets on to me for making the World War II references. But again, in the 1960s, having been only one generation from that war, guys like Terry Nation and some of these other writers are going, look, we see it happening again. We see fascism starting back up in various places. Francisco Franco was still pretty much a fascist there in Spain. Khrushchev, and then later Andropov and Brezhnev and all the rest of them. They were again promoting communism around the world. So yes, I understand. It's what Gene Roddenberry was doing too. That we cannot allow this to happen again.
Yeah.
But we cannot come out and say we must stop the fascists. We have to put that into a science fiction context, and then hopefully people will get the idea that we're just reminding you in don't want to say even an entertaining way, but an informational entertainment way, that you may think that fascism is gone, but it's here and it's growing on a daily basis, and you have to be ever vigilant.
Yes. So the point we were making is we don't know when this episode takes place.
Yes.
So we just went off on a whole tangent just to say we don't know when this takes place.
So, back to the notes.
Yes. Okay, so, hold on. Let me try to think. Where were we?
I scrambled his brain.
Okay, we were talking about the different factions, like, of the Daleks that have been split off, and, this could be, around the time of the Dalek invasion of Earth, and maybe these Daleks just don't know what's happened because they've been on Vulcan so long. But that's the thing, is that, you kind of wonder, like, okay, where are these Daleks? Because the past 2 serials we've had have included the time machines. The chase, was just about the time machine, and then they brought that back in the Dalek Master Plan so that they could, again, chase the Doctor. So it makes me curious, like, okay, so do they know, like, are they to that point yet? Have they made it to the chase? And, if not, then they still have, like, the Daleks still have technically a few more, like, basically run-ins with the first Doctor that they haven't gotten to yet. Which does bring up the question, though, how do they recognize the second Doctor when he just regenerated? Unless it is, like... unless, if you really want to get timey-wimey with this, that these particular Daleks have met the second Doctor before, but the second Doctor hasn't gotten there yet. Which could also be... Now, did they think about that when they wrote that? I'm going to say no.
I'm going to say no.
But it's something they could bring up later, basically.
Yes. It's all wibbly-wobbly.
Yeah. Okay. So to go into the actual notes, I mean, the first thing I wrote down was the post-regeneration, which I feel like we're still kind of getting as well. But I do like that scene where, he's explaining nothing. Yeah. And, Ben and Polly, they're just like, we don't really know what's happening. They kind of think, like, Polly, again, good on Polly for actually figuring this out. Yeah. It's like, okay, the Doctor was the one that came in here. Something happened. The TARDIS went crazy, and then this guy appeared. So he must still be the Doctor. Yeah. He must have somehow changed his face. But Ben is a bit more reluctant to think of that. So I do really like that she does sort of figure it out, even if she's maybe not 100% there, because it's still such a strange thing. Yeah. And I do like, just the scene of, well, first off, he has kind of the post-regen hangover, where he has to sort of get everything, get his vision focused and everything. And then going through, it's like, oh, yeah, so this thing, it's like, oh, yeah, this was I think I got this in the Crusades. Oh, yeah, that was it. And then, eventually just looking into a mirror. And I actually like that it's not just that he looks into a mirror, but he looks, he sees himself, then it switches back to Hartnell, and then back to him. It's like, yep, okay, we can work with this one. So, I did like that.
And again, I'm hoping that the whole thing about Polly was that what I've been saying all along is that she's not just, some bird that they picked up in a bar, but she was originally, secretary to a very famous scientist, so that she has to have some kind of scientific knowledge. She's certainly not Vicky. Not Vicky. Yes, Vicky. Who's the girl from 10,000 AD? Was that Vicky?
Pretty much.
From the rescue?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, she's not that, but she's certainly better than Dodo, who didn't know squat.
Right. Yeah, I guess Dodo knew the least, actually. Yeah. Because even Susan, knew some stuff. She at least knew how to open the doors of the TARDIS, So, she knew some stuff, and then Vicky was probably a little bit better because she had, all the PhDs and stuff. Dodo really is, she had nothing, really. Yeah. So yeah. Now, I'm very curious if they will actually go with that explanation for Polly, or if that's just going to end up being your headcanon for it. So, I mean, it could be that it's like, okay, they give some things where it's like, oh yeah, we could be, sort of hinting at that, but we never really say, and it's like, okay, that would be a good theory for it. So, I did write down the animation, which we don't really need to talk about too much, but overall, it is still pretty good.
Yeah.
So, I would be curious what the updated version is, because I know that this one, I think it was kind of rushed. So
now, is this the same group that did Scream of the Shalka? Do you know?
I don't know, but it kind of feels like that same.
Yeah, again, because the idea that I have here, if I recall correctly, is called rotoscope, which is where they actually have a print of it, and then they simply animate it off the print. But we don't have a print at all of this. We don't know what it would have looked like. So, whatever it is, they're doing a very good job. Again, I thought the Doctor and Polly especially were very much like Troughton and Annika Wills. The one of Ben, though, doesn't really look like him to me. But other than that, I mean, it's obviously his voice. They've obviously got the audio, so that's good. But sorry, didn't mean to knock over your cup back there. But anyway, it's easy to follow. It's certainly better than watching this in the recons.
Yeah, and that's the thing too, is that I feel like it is slightly different because, well, first off, I think Scream of the Shalka, when would that have been? 2003 maybe? So, and this is 2016 that they made this one. But even with last episode, with the last episode of the 10th Planet, where it's like the animation was just sort of it felt different. Like the shots were a bit different. They didn't just sort of hold on a shot for a little while, and everyone moved kind of differently. So I'm curious if it's even just a different animation company between those two episodes.
But also in the 10th Planet, they had 3 episodes to base it on.
Yeah.
They knew the director was doing the wide shots with the people in the foreground and the action in the background. So they had that. This one, if there's literally no print remaining, these people are just going off of maybe some stills and then just, animating in between.
Right.
But again, whoever did it, it's very enjoyable.
Yeah. It does make me wish that they sort of, I guess, just hurried up with animating the rest of the stuff, because it's like, we've obviously gone through countless episodes in recons, and it's like, I wish those would be, animated. Of course, stuff like the Christmas episode during Daleks Master Plan is something we don't really need to see. But even still, it's like it would have been slightly better.
Yeah.
But even because I know the next episode we're gonna do after this is just completely recons, and it's like, okay, we're just gonna have to sit back and really try to power through that one.
Is that just a 4-parter though?
Yeah, I think so.
Can we do that all in one day?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think maybe like the next 2 or 3 after this one are recons, but I know like I think there's 2 or 3 episodes in a row that have all been animated. So
that's good.
Yeah, and someone actually told me that there are 2 episodes that are going to be animated and they're going to be released in 2021, but we will have already watched the recons by then, so there's nothing we can do about that.
I'd love to see Marco Polo as an animation.
Which that was nice that he referenced that too when he's talking about China. It's like, China, yes, I went there once. I met Marco Polo, so that was really cool. Let's see, the planet Vulcan, which I mean, this is right when Star Trek came out.
Yeah.
So that's a very interesting choice for a planet name. Which I mean, obviously, I guess they don't really have, trademark on the word Vulcan itself. And, obviously there are no Vulcans here. Like, you don't see Spock or anyone show up in this. It's just the name of the planet.
Which also seems kind of odd. I mean, I realize that there are, bubbling pits of mercury, but Vulcan, the name is basically from, ancient Greek. I can't remember. I may have been Hephaestus, and then Vulcan was the Roman version. But again, it suggests volcanoes. The planet, what was it, Mustafar in the Revenge of the Sith, with literally rivers of flowing lava, and that seemed to be like a very dead planet with just the pools of mercury there. And again, they have not yet explained why they need the mercury.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of stuff they haven't explained.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like in the Sensorites, they made sure to let you know that molybdenum was going to be used in their rocket ships and all the other stuff. But here, mining mercury for what? Is there a dearth of thermometers? In the future, why is it? What are we doing with mercury? It's not something that I can think of that would be extremely useful in space travel or anything else, for medicine, or it just, I don't know. It again doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, the only other thing I could think of is, when the Doctor opened the doors of the TARDIS and they were freaking out. It's like, oh, you don't even know what's out there really. I'm pretty sure he said the temperature was 86.
Yeah,
which would have to mean 86 degrees Fahrenheit.
Yeah.
So the only thing I could think is like maybe Great Britain was switching at the time and they really did need a lot of thermometers, but even then, they probably have just normal thermometers that they probably have both. I mean, because here in America they have thermometers that say both versions of the temperature. So
again, the thing is though that even at 86 degrees, I would think mercury would be liquid, because it is one of those metals that at room temperature it does not solidify. So I mean, it's a great visual, although we haven't really seen anything other than that opening shot there.
Yeah.
But again, some explanation as to why they're mining mercury would be somewhat helpful.
Yeah. Let's see. We had the capsule, which was just a easy way of being like, all right, we need a way to reveal the Daleks at the end of the first episode. Well, we'll just put them in this capsule, whatever. So it works. And of course, because it says at the beginning, the power of the Daleks, everyone would be just waiting. It's like, all right, when are the Daleks going to get here, Yeah. So...
And where's the squid?
I guess the squid, after it ran out, it hightailed it back to the shell that Lesterson was working on, and then just got back in, because now all 3 of them are out and about.
Yeah.
So
that's again the kind of, I don't want to say it's a complete red herring, but the idea we were left with was, the squid has escaped and therefore the Dalek would be unusable.
Yeah.
But again, how does the squid get back in? Because we didn't see any of the Daleks with the tops off of them. So does he have a way to climb up the Dalek, take the top off, or is it like a pepper pot lid and then he gets in and just closes it behind? That's everyone we've ever seen taking the top off. They have to take the top off and set it down. It does not hinge.
I think there was at least one where it was a hinge. Well, I think like in the Space Museum when the Doctor was hiding in one of the Dalek things, I'm pretty sure he just brought it up when he got out of there. So
All right.
I don't remember. Of course, obviously Lesterson doesn't know about the squid, and he thinks it's some sort of positronic brain in there.
And I'm really surprised. I think the first time I had ever heard about a positronic brain was in the 90s. So to talk about that in the 1960s, that's why I seemed somewhat shocked when he said that.
Which, I mean, positronic brain, is like they always bring that up on like Next Gen because that's what Data had.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is pretty interesting. Well, and it also is just interesting that Lesterson just hasn't opened up a Dalek yet. Like, you'd almost think like that'd be the first thing he tries to do so that he can really start to understand it. Yeah. But no, he just like attached some things. Oh, it turned on. I guess that'll work. So, let's see.
Although he did seem somewhat concerned there at the end, that look he gave them when they said, "We will have the power."
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. When they all start chanting, "We will have the power," it's like, I need to keep an eye on these things, just in case.
Where's that off switch?
Yeah. Let's see. So they did actually, one of them did kill Resno, which is interesting, and whoever the assistant was. Janley covered it up, basically, which is interesting, because it's interesting, they had this whole thing about the rebels, which, first off, we don't see the rest of the colony. Like, at first you're like, oh, it's some sort of scientific thing, and there's only like a handful of people here. It's like, no, this is like an entire colony on Vulcan. For some reason, I don't know why other humans are here. Like, oh, I guess it's all the miners, I guess. But,
and even when, what was the place where, was it the molybdenum one, where there was something about the water that was...
Yeah, the water, it was like kind of poison.
Yeah.
From some areas. Yeah. And
but even then they had, 7 or 8 of the, whatever the alien species was there. I can't remember. I don't know if that was the Sensorites or not.
Yeah.
But, here, all you got to do is hire a couple of guys to walk around in jumpsuits and say, well, look, they're going out to the, mercury pit or something.
Yeah.
Because right now, seriously, we've seen like 6 people, and other than the guy who chloroformed Polly, we don't really know who the rebels are.
Yeah, we just, like, there is a rebellion. What exactly are they rebelling
against?
Like, we're not sure. It's like against mining. It's like, well, are they rebels or are they like union workers? Like, I don't know. They just haven't really explained it. It's like, oh, well, the rebels are going to use the Dalek weapons that somehow work without the Daleks, and they're going to...
They think they do, but we haven't seen that yet.
That's true. You'd think you'd test that first. But they're going to use the Dalek weapons, I guess, to take over the colony. But the one guy is Bragan. He's going to use the rebels to take down the governor, and then he'll be governor and he'll take down the rebels so that there's just no opposition.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel like these rebels just exist to be a plot point. Like, there's really... You'd almost think there would be more with the rebels, but there just aren't.
At this point, they just seem to be a distraction.
Yeah, they're just kind of in the background. Yeah. So, let's see. The Daleks are servants, but that's obviously they're just doing this so that they can get what they need before they actually try to take over.
And the one actually slipped up. We are better. We're whatever he said. Ultimately.
Yeah, we are as smart as humans. Yeah. So,
oops.
Yeah, slipped up a little with your superiority complex. So yeah. Let's see. I mean, as soon as they, said it's like, oh, well, Quinn, maybe he wants to take your place because he's deputy governor. It's like, you're right. Imprison him. You'll be deputy governor. I was like, well, okay, well, he's going to be the bad guy and he's going to try to usurp them. It's honestly weird. It's like we basically have like 5 different villains going on. It's like, okay, we have Lesterson, who's, just sort of an antagonist, keeping the Doctor away. We have, Bragan, who's trying to take over the colonies. We have the rebels that are just kind of there. We don't see them, but they are there somewhere. And then we have the actual villains of this entire episode, which are the Daleks. And in all of this, we barely have a functioning Doctor because he's just being vague and mysterious right now. So it's just a whole lot of stuff is happening. And I mean, I guess that's sort of where we have to leave it because we don't have the other, the rest of the answers. We haven't seen the rest of it. Yeah. So it's been quite a while since we've had... Well, I guess since the Dalek Master Plan, that was the last one that we had to split into multiple videos. Yeah. So... which apparently I think we need to get used to this because it's a lot of 6-parters going into the second Doctor's era. So yeah, I guess that's all I got.
Yeah. I did see somewhere there's what I think should be the new motto of our discussions here. It just says, "Give us a minute. Let us overthink this."
Yeah, we really. We just have to at this point. It's like, we just have to overthink this now. I mean, we are thinking probably 1,000 times more about these stories than were actually put into the writing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Well, and also just because we're kind of trying to just decipher it. It's like, okay, what were they thinking when they wrote this? And it's like, and because that's the thing. It's like, they're not really writing for, they're kind of writing for, this is, Doctor Who, and we have to figure out what are we actually going to do. It's almost like they're kind of trying to write like it's Star Trek. Like, yes, we know what we're doing, but they really don't. They're trying to figure out what they actually know, and it's just like, okay, how do we keep the kids, entertained here?
Yeah.
So I was like, we're not really sure what to do with this new Doctor. Throw in the Daleks, that'll keep the kids occupied while we figure things out.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Which, it's still a good episode overall, but it's just it's just odd. Which I think has been the motto of the last season or so. It's just, that was good, it was just odd. So,
all right.
I guess that's pretty much that.
That's it.
With all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. If you want to watch more of our Doctor Who classic reactions, you can click on the playlist, you can subscribe if you haven't done that already, and be sure you hit that notification bell. You can support me on Patreon, follow me on social media, links below in the description. See you guys later.